Imagine a traveler who spends his entire life wandering through distant mountains and remote holy sites, pushing his body to the absolute limit in search of God. He collapses, exhausted, only to realize that the divine presence he was looking for was quietly residing within him the entire time. It sounds almost tragic, but consider an even more absurd scenario. Picture a person frantically running down the street, knocking on doors and begging strangers to help him find his own house, while he is already sitting comfortably in his own living room. We laugh at that idea, but we do the exact same thing when we ask our most persistent spiritual question: where did my soul come from, and how was it made? For centuries, we have treated the human soul like a misplaced physical object that we just need to locate, or a historical puzzle with a specific start date waiting to be discovered. But ancient texts like the Ashtavakra Gita offer a completely different logic. This diagram shows the timeline of physical reality. Everything in the physical world has a point of creation, which means it is bound by time, and therefore must eventually face destruction. Contrast that with the unbroken line below it representing consciousness. If a soul is created, it is destructible. It cannot be eternal. By asking how our soul was formed, we prove that we have completely misidentified what we actually are. This brings up an obvious problem. If we are all made of one unbroken, eternal consciousness, why does the world look so incredibly divided? And why does our isolation feel so painful? The answer lies in a concept called Maya. Often misunderstood as magic, Maya is actually a psychological misperception. Think of it as a glitch in human perception that forces the brain to see many separate things instead of one unified whole. To see how this glitch works, look at this image. A man walks into a dark room, sees this coiled shape on the floor, and instantly perceives a striking snake. His heart races, his palms sweat, and he experiences genuine physiological terror. But when someone flips the light switch, the man doesn't have to kill the snake. The light simply reveals a harmless rope. The threat never actually existed, even though the man's fear was entirely real. Our intense feeling of being an isolated, individual self operates exactly like that snake. Our ego, our fears, our sense of separation, they feel completely real to us, but they are merely a trick played by the dark. Resolving the mystery of the soul means turning on the light of understanding to expose the illusion of our own individuality. The Upanishads illustrate this beautifully. This diagram shows a single light source, representing the sun. When it shines down onto dozens of clay pots filled with water, a tiny glowing dot appears inside every single one. If you only observe the ground, your perspective traps you. You look at the pots and falsely conclude that there are thousands of tiny, separate suns captured in the water. Watch what happens when the pots are destroyed. The individual reflections vanish, but the main bright circle at the top remains completely unaffected. And we can see the exact same logic in the physical relationship between the vast ocean and its waves. A wave rises, takes on a unique and beautiful shape, crashes onto the shore, and immediately dissolves back into the water it came from. A wave might develop an ego and believe it has an independent, self-directed life. But the truth is, there is never a single millisecond in its entire existence where it is physically separate from the ocean. Human beings operate the exact same way. You are not a temporary wave possessing your own independent soul. You are the entire ocean, briefly expressing itself as a wave. If we are not these individual bodies, and we are not the minds that inhabit them, what exactly is the entity experiencing this reality right now? There is an old story of a king who goes to sleep and dreams he has become a starving beggar. He suffers immensely from hunger and cold. When he finally wakes up terrified in his royal bed, he is paralyzed, unsure which reality is the actual truth. A sage listens to the king's dilemma and tells him that neither the suffering beggar nor the comfortable king is the ultimate truth. Both of these states are temporary, and both of them constantly change. The absolute truth is the entity that watched the dream happen and is now watching the king sit on his bed. This is the witness, the silent, unchanging consciousness that simply observes everything. And here lies the core paradox of human spirituality. The effort to search for this witness, to actively hunt for enlightenment or locate your soul is both physically impossible and entirely unnecessary. A wave cannot pack its bags and go on a journey to find the ocean. A reflection cannot travel through the glass to search for the mirror. The true spiritual journey requires no acquisition of a new soul or a magical trip to a higher plane. It demands only that you drop the exhausting illusion of your separation. You do not need to search for your soul, because it was never lost. Ending the search is the only way to finally experience the eternal existence that you already are.